we are here today. Today is December 21st, and it is officially time to look at the top 5 worst movies of 2025. Now, before we get into the video, I will preface this by saying this is purely theatrical movies. I'm not looking at streaming services or anything like that. These are based on the movies that I have seen this year in theaters. So, right now, as it stands, my movie total through Regal's Unlimited plan is about 275 movies. Obviously, there's some movies that will be seen this week, this upcoming week, and so that will play a different role. But I am officially ready to kind of release the movies that I think are on this list. Now, when looking at this list, I did have to make a little cheat sheet because I want to make sure that I get things 100% accurate, because even though you sit here and can list off the movies that you consider the worst of the year, you have to kind of look at it and go, okay, where do they fall in that ranking? So we're going to get right into this. Movie number 5. So the 5th movie on this list is Flight Risk. Now, this was a movie that was built on anticipation. You were going to have this thriller in the sky, a criminal, a cop, and a pilot, and it was really going to be a fight for survival while up in the air. I have to tell you, this movie was one of those that no matter how many times you tried to get into the film, it just was abysmal. There was a lot missing in the movie, and it really reminded me a lot of a movie last year titled ISS, which was another thriller, but that one was in space. And so when you watch Flight Risk, I was hoping that this movie would be something entertaining, but ultimately it just kind of fluttered away and was one of those that I was kind of just looking and hoping that it would end soon. And even the people in the theater, I do remember this, that were upset because they were kind of talking about the trailer and how it looked like it was going to be fun, but it ultimately wasn't. Now, there was another movie that was released a couple weeks or a month after this one that had almost a similar premise, but that one was definitely a lot better. I can't necessarily remember the name of that film, but I just know that it was better. Looking back down at this list, because like I said, there are some things on here where I want to make sure I get it right. And coming in at number 4, my 4th worst movie of the year is Strangers Chapter 2. Strangers Chapter 1 was in my top 10 worst movies of 2024, and now we are back with Chapter 2 in the top 5 in 2025. Now, when it comes to this movie, they're building on what is going to be released in February, I do believe, for the Chapter 3. And so when all of these films are being released like this, the first 2 were just not good at all. I think when you look at movie number 2, they want you to really look and understand that this is going to be a horror movie. You're supposed to be on the edge of your seat. You're supposed to kind of buy into more of the story. But I feel like it just leaves a lot of things missing. So as you watch this movie, you're kind of just hoping it's going to end. You're wondering, when is the suspense going to come in? And ultimately, it gets to a point where you just kind of want to give up. I remember leaving the theater, and one of the workers that actually works at my Regal was off that day and asked me what I thought of the movie as I was leaving. And I'm like, it's terrible. It's not good. It's not entertaining. Now, I will give this one credit in comparison to the first one. I did kind of like the way that it ended, so we at least have somewhat of an understanding of what happens in movie number 3. But even with movie number 3 coming out, you have to wonder, how much of an audience did they already deflect away from the movie based on the performances of Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Now, before we get into the top 3 worst movies of the year, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We have more videos, more reviews coming as we enter 2026. I cannot wait for a few movies next week like Marty Supreme. And we still have our top 5 movies and our most anticipated movies of 2026. But coming in at number 3 was a movie that I feel was ruined on its own self. Disney tried to take a swing at this movie, and the press and the media and the tour that they went on, the actresses and the actors within the movie just obliterated it before it even began. And that was Snow White. I like the original Snow White, but this was Disney's attempt to kind of bring a modern take to the story, air quotes. But ultimately, it was a movie where when you look at the 2 actresses in the movie, there was so much controversy around them. and it just wasn't a good movie. When your lead actress is talking about the changing of the story and making it one way instead of this way, you kind of are forgetting the whole purpose of the movie as a whole. And so as you watch it, you're kind of wondering, where are things actually going to go in the movie? Now, for me, I just feel like this movie left a lot to be desired. There was not a lot of buy-in from the audience in theaters. This movie lost a lot of money. And I know when it hit Disney Plus, it was the number one movie for a little bit. But that's also because a lot of people did not want to go spend money in theaters and watch this movie. And honestly, I do not blame them, because for me, this was a movie that I just think was not good at all. It was one that I was waiting for it to end so I could walk out. And that is why Snow White is here. Now, before we get into the top two movies, there are a few honorable mentions I think have to be on this list. Keeper. Keeper was easily a top 5 worst movie of the year. The movie by Osgood Perkins. There was a lot missing from that movie. You really couldn't buy into it. And so when you look at a movie like that, you're trying to figure out what is going on. Him, I'm still not a fan of him. I did have that in my top 5 for a little bit. It hit Peacock. I rewatched it. It kind of drifted back down to the 9th or the 10th spot. But him is still one of those movies that you almost felt like when Marlon Wayans was not on the screen, there was a lot missing and you couldn't really buy in to what was there. And one movie that I think did underdeliver, and it was one that I still have tried to watch on HBO and still cannot get through, and that is Death of a Unicorn. For me, that movie was just abysmal in a sense. There's no story. You have rich people, I guess. They try to give us Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega and hope they can put something together, and ultimately there was very little there. Now, going into number 2, the second worst movie of the year is The Thing with Feathers. The Thing with Feathers was a movie that was absolutely crushed in theaters, and rightfully so. This movie was built on a father and his 2 sons really grieving with the loss of their mother and trying to navigate things through personal life and work. But what you really have in this movie is a slow-paced film with weird animals like the crow coming in. I shouldn't say animals, but really a focus of the crow. And it was just one of those that I could never get in. The movie was too slow. Even the acting couldn't save this movie. And I think what really made this movie kind of on this list guaranteed was there's one specific scene in the movie where you have a supermarket scene. The dad's out grocery shopping, Robert Pattinson, and then next thing you know, he begins being hunted by a crow. And for me, when you're watching something like that, you don't really have any understanding of why. And as somebody that has read the book, there were a lot of different things in the movie, and I understand that happens from time to time, but I feel like in this one, they took away some of the key aspects of the book and tried to give it this little theatrical belief, and it ultimately failed. And it is now time for the worst movie of 2025 that hit theaters, and that would be Hurry Up Tomorrow. Hurry Up Tomorrow was a loud, obnoxious mess that left a lot to be desired. There was no storyline. It was just the Weeknd's promotion for loud music. You have Jenna Ortega, who plays this runaway, but then is a crazy fan of the Weeknd's character. You have the Weeknd trying to deal with personal issues with a girlfriend, and you watch this movie and you're just confused the entire time. We were in the smallest theater on opening weekend, which kind of told me where the direction of the movie was going to go. But what made this even more significant is that you watched a lot of people walk out. I don't think in any movie that I've seen in 2 years that there's been this many walkouts in a theater. And that is something that made me realize how bad this movie was. Now, when you look at this movie, a lot of people that are the Weeknd fans are going to say, but it was great. Like, you got to listen to the music and watch basically a free concert. But you can go watch a concert somewhere else. If he wanted to do a concert, he could have just done it in a theater and said, hey, this is our concert. That you didn't have. The movie was not good. It was slow. There was no story. It was loud. And it is one of those movies that the ratings and Rotten Tomatoes and all that already have deemed that terrible. And so Hurry Up Tomorrow is my worst movie of 2025. But drop a comment below. What movie do you think should be on here? Feel free to include anything that was on a streaming service. So, like Amazon, War of the Worlds, I believe. I don't even remember. I turned it off. I don't want to watch an Amazon ad for 2 hours. But there are other movies that easily could have made this list. This is my top 5 worst of 2025. As we head into 2026, I'm really hoping that the movies are better and they give us more of a wider range of films hitting theaters. So drop a comment and let me know, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What movie should be added to this list? Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to check out the other reviews I have posted. Stay tuned for more videos coming. Make sure to follow me on all the social media pages, and I will talk to you all later.